The King of Ireland's son was told by the Blue Hawk, sort of through the tree, that he could find Fidelma if he found the king of the land of mists and got the special sword of the sword of light. And if he cut her hair with the sword of light, she would wake up again. And at the same time, we have the story of the King of Cats. And he has gone to the Hag of the Ashes. And she's agreed to let him take her goat to the Hill of Horns so that he can complete his mission. So here we continue with both stories. The King of Ireland's son did not leave the castle the next day, but stayed to question those who came to it about the Sword of Light. And some had heard of the Sword of Light, and some had not heard of it. In the afternoon he was in the chambers of the castle, and he watched his two foster brothers, Dermot and Donal, the sons of Cantigern the queen, playing chess. They played the game upon his board and with his figures, and when he went up to them and told them they had permission to use the board and the figures, they said, "We had forgotten that you owned these things." The king's son saw that everything in the castle was coming into the possession of his foster brothers. He found another board with other chessmen, and he played a game with the king's steward. And Art said, "The coming of the King of the Cats into King Connell's dominion is a story still to be told. To your father's son, in all truth, be it told." What should a goat do but ramble down laneways, wander across fields, stray along hedges, and stay to rest under shady trees? All this the hag's goat did, but at last he brought the King of Cats to the foot of the Hill of the Horns. "And what was the Hill of Horns like?" asks my foster child. "It was hills of stones on top of a hill of stones. Only a goat could foot it from pebble to stone, from stone to boulder, from boulder to crag, and from crag to mountain shoulder. It was well and not ill what the hag's goat did. But then thunder sounded, lightning struck fire out of the stones, and wind mixed itself with the rain, and the tempest pelted cat and goat. The goat stood on a mountain shoulder. The wind rushed up from the bottom and carried the companions to the top of the Hill of Horns. Down sprang the cat, but the goat stood on his hind legs to butt back at the wind. The wind caught him between the beard and underquarters and swept him from the top and down the other side of the hill. And what happened to the hag's goat after this, I never heard. The King of the Cats put his claws into the crevices of a standing stone and held to it with great tenacity. And then, when the wind abated and he looked across his shoulder, he found that he was standing beside the nest of the Eagle Emperor. It was a hollow edged with rocks, and round that hollow were scattered the horns of the deer and goats that the Eagle Emperor had carried off. And in the hollow there was a calf and a hare and a salmon. The King of the Cats sprang into the Eagle Emperor's nest. First he ate the salmon. Then he stretched himself between the hare and the calf and waited for the Eagle Emperor. At last he appeared. Down he came to the nest, making circles in the air. He lighted on the rocky rim. The King of the Cats rose with body bent for the spring, and if the Eagle Emperor was not astonished at his appearance, it was because an eagle never can be astonished. A brave man would be glad if he could have seen the Eagle Emperor as he crouched there on the rock rim of his nest. He spread down his wings till they were great strong shields. He bent down his outspread tail. He bent down his neck so that his eyes might look into the creature that faced him, and his cruel, curved, heavy beak was ready for the stroke. But the King of the Cats sprang into the air. The eagle lifted himself up, but the cat came down on his broad back. The Eagle Emperor screamed his warning scream and flew off the hill. He struck at the king of the cats with the backs of his broad wings. Then he plunged down. On the stones below he would tear his enemy with beak and claws. It was the cat that reached the ground. As the eagle went to strike at him, he sprang again and tore the eagle's breast. Then the eagle emperor caught the king of cats in his claws and flew up again, screaming his battle scream. Drops of blood from both fell on the ground. The eagle had not a conqueror's grip on his enemy, and the king of cats was able to tear at him. It happened that Corroy, the king of the Munster fairies, was marching at the head of his troop to play a game of hurling with Fianna of Ireland, captained by Fergus, and for the hand of Aine, the daughter of Manannan, the Lord of the Sea. Just when the ball was about to be thrown in the air, the Eagle Emperor and the King of the Cats were seen mixed together in their struggle. One troop took the side of the eagle, and the other took the side of the cat. The men of the country came up and took sides also. Then the men began to fight amongst themselves, and some were left dead on the ground. And this went on until there were hosts of men of Ireland fighting each other on the account of the Eagle Emperor and the King of Cats. The king of the fairies and the chief of the Fianna marched their men away to a hilltop where they might watch the battle in the air, and the battles on the ground. If this should go on, said Corroy, our troops will join in, and men and fairies will be slaughtered. We must end the combat in the air. Saying this, he took up the hurling ball and flung it at the cat and eagle. Both came down on the ground. The cat was about to spring, the eagle was about to pounce, when Corroy darted between them and struck both with his spear. Eagle and cat became figures of stone, and there they are now, a stone eagle with his wings outspread, and a stone cat with his teeth bared and his paws raised. And the Eagle Emperor and the King of the Cats will remain like that until Corroy strikes them again with his fairy spear. When the cat and the eagle were turned into stone, the men of the country wondered for a while, and then they went away. And the fairies of Munster and the Fianna of Ireland played the hurling match for the hand of Aine, the daughter of Manannan, who is Lord of the Sea, and what the result of that hurling match was told in another book. At that ends my history of the coming into Ireland of the King of the Cats. The King of Ireland's son left Art and went into an unused room in the castle to search for a little bell that he might put on the slight red steed. He found the little bell, but it fell out of his hand and slipped through a crack in the floor. He went and looked through the crack. He saw below a room, and in it was Cantigrain, the queen, and beside her were two women in the cloaks of enchantresses. And when he looked again, he knew the two of them. They were Aoife and Gilvine, the daughters of the enchanter of the Black Backlands and Fidelma's sisters. And will my two sons come to rule over their father's dominion? He heard Cantigrain ask. The prince who gains the Sword of Light will rule over his father's dominion, Aoife said. Then one of my sons must get the Sword of Light, Cantigrain said. Tell me where they must go to get knowledge of where it is. Only the Goban Seor knows where the Sword of Light is, said Aoife. The Goban Seor, can he be seen by men? Said Cantigrain. He can be seen, said Aoife, and there is one, the little sage of the mountain, who can tell what road to go to find the Goban Seor. Then, said Cantigrain, my two sons Dermot and Donal will ride out tomorrow to find the little sage of the mountain and the Goban Seor, so that one of them may find the Sword of Light and come to rule over his father's dominion. When the King of Ireland's son heard that, he went to the stable where the slight red steed was, and put the bridle upon him, and rode towards the Hill of Horns, on one side of which was the house thatched with one great wing of a bird, where the little sage of the mountain lived.